All of the footage you see in this video isn't mine and they belong to their respectful owners. The owners of the videos will be credited at the end of the video and in the description, as well as links to the original videos. Anyways, on to the video. Wow. Mega Man's 35th anniversary was last week, and we got no new news about any new Mega Man game. We literally got no trailer, we got nothing. Yeah, but we're getting a new Mega Man collection, so that's nice, right? Yeah, but I want a new Mega Man game, man. Like, something. A new X game, man. But didn't we get that, like, X-Dive Gotcha game? Well, anyway, you want to review Mega Man 03? Yeah, we'll get the Game Boy Advance. Well, unfortunately, we don't have it anymore because it was stolen. That makes me really happy. Well, we still got the collection, right? Yeah, let me go get that. Wow, I can't believe we're already halfway done with the Mega Man 0 series. Well, it's time to review Mega Man 03. Alright, Buzz, I got the game. You ready to review Mega Man 03 for the Game Boy Advance? Oh, hell yeah, let's do it right now. 03 begins by recapping the events of the first two games in case you missed out on them or forgot. 2 months after the events of 02, Ciel, Zero, and 2 Resistance members are investigating a spaceship that gets off similar energy readings to the Dark Elf, which if I'm being honest, it looks more like a sword instead of a spaceship. During the opening, you can see the Resistance soldiers aren't as worried as usual because Ciel finished her research on a renewable energy source in between 02 and 3. Zero heads to the spaceship, but before he enters the ship, Ciel and the 2 Resistance soldiers are captured by the X-Bots, and Harpuia tells him that the X-Bots aren't there to harm them because he's letting them off the hook. He also tells them to get lost. After Harpuia leaves, Zero enters the ship. After Zero makes his way through the ship, he makes it to the boss door, and beyond the door, Fafnir and Leviathan are fighting against a giant Reploid called Omega, and their attacks aren't doing anything to him. During the battle, Zero walks in and fights Omega on his own. After the battle, Harpuia shows up to get some hits in on him as well. Shortly after, a man called Dr. Wall or Dr. Val in Japan shows up along with a resurrected Copy X who now has a stuttering problem. While Copy X was gone, Harpuia grew to think for himself more, questions why Master X would let a man who was banished from Neo Arcadia a century ago back into Neo Arcadia. Unfortunately for him, Copy X openly accepts Wall with open arms because he brought him back and saved his life. Once again, the Resistance and Neo Arcadia are trying to find the Dark Elf before the other side does. In one of the missions, Zero manages to find the Baby Elves. While he was fighting Defton's Mantis, Dr. Bob manipulates the Baby Elves by telling them Zero's bad because he hurt their mother back in the Elf Wars. He also tells them that he made their mother and he claims to be their grandpa. After several missions of trying to find a Dark Elf later, Dr. Bob locates the Dark Elf in Area Z3079, which is a human residential district. In order to retrieve the Dark Elf, they decide to launch a missile on the city where the Dark Elf currently is. Zero heads off to stop the missile, but he fails and the missile hits the city. Omega finds the Dark Elf under the debris, and the Baby Elves are ecstatic that they finally found their mother. After their short family reunion, Omega absorbs the Dark Elf and becomes complete. Shortly after, Harpuia shows up and gets pissed at WoW for killing an entire district of humans and decides to fight against Omega, which is futile because he doesn't stand a chance against him. Afterwards, Zero jumps in and saves an injured Harpuia by bringing him to the Resistance base to heal his wounds. Suddenly, Copy X and WoW contact the Resistance and ask Ciel to give them her new energy source in exchange for their safety. Ciel tells them that they can't have it because they were prepared to sacrifice human lives just to attain the Dark Elf and that she doesn't trust them. Afterwards, Neo Arcadia launches an attack against them and Zero heads off to take care of them. After Zero defeats the resurrected 01 boss, he makes his way to Copy X's throne room to kick his ass for the second time. After Zero defeats Copy X, X pops up and tells him that WoW dipped out and that he was using them the whole time. Copy X tries to transform into his ultimate form again, and he explodes as X tells him WoW placed a bomb on him, knowing that Copy X will get his ass kicked. Shortly after Copy X's death, WoW informs the people of Neo Arcadia that their leader X was killed by Maverick extremists and that now he's their new leader now that X is gone. Now that Copy X is gone, WoW can use Neo Arcadia's forces along with the power of the Dark Elf and Omega as he pleases. Afterwards, Zero heads off to take care of the last set of missions. In one of the missions, he goes to a seemingly abandoned factory to find out that they're cloning large amounts of Baby Elves so that they can use them to power up Omega. After Zero defeats Cobalt Foxheart, she tells him that they don't really need the Baby Elves because the Dark Elf alone is more than enough to take care of the Reploids. Later on in the Sunken Library, Zero finds information about WoW, the Dark Elf, Omega, and the Elf Wars, which he doesn't remember very well due to his hibernation sickness from sleeping for a century. After Zero finishes the last mission, Ciel tells him about the Elf Wars, which marked the end of the Maverick Wars and the beginning of the Elf Wars. During the Elf Wars, the Dark Elf was known as the Mother Elf, and she was originally designed to turn Mavericks back to normal so they could come back to the light. However, WoW placed a curse on her and turned her into the Dark Elf, who has the ability to freely rewrite a Reploid's programming. After Ciel finishes telling Zero about the Elf Wars, WoW contacts him and tells him that thanks to the resonance of the Dark Elf and Omega, he can now control every Reploid on the planet, and he can even control the Resistance soldiers at the Resistance base. Except for Ciel because she's a human, as well as X and Zero because they're robots that were made by humans. Shortly after, X pops up and protects them from Omega's projection, but his current power can only protect the Reploids at the Resistance base. Afterwards, Zero goes to Neo Arcadia to destroy Omega and to stop the brainwashing. On the way there, he confronts Phantom in cyberspace, who decides to test his skills to see if he has what it takes to stop Omega. Later on, Zero confronts the baby elves and destroys them for good while escapes, leaving Zero to fight a fully powered Omega. After Zero defeats Omega's first two forms, he finds out that the base he just destroyed was pretty close to the Forbidden Ruins where Ecel found it back in the first game. Shortly after, WoW reveals to Zero that he's a fake and that the real Zero is Omega. After he says this, Omega emerges, while goes on to say that the Resistance just called the body they found here Zero and that Omega is the real deal, revealing that Zero's original body from X2 through pre-Elf Wars was affected with the virus, which is why he sealed himself away. I'm not sure why his original body doesn't have the X2 design or the X8 design, but maybe he changed his appearance after the X series. Anyways, WoW goes on to mock Zero for being a copy, and he tells Omega to destroy him. After Zero defeats Omega, WoW attempts to reactivate him, and the Guardians show up to get some hits in on him and tell Zero to finish him off before the Dark Elf repowers him. X also pops up and tells Zero that Omega may have his body, but he doesn't have his mind or his heart. X has been meaning to tell him this the whole game, but he didn't tell him this earlier until the time was right. At this time, WoW's curse on the Dark Elf begins to fade away, and X tells Zero to finish the job. In a last-ditch effort, WoW begs for Zero not to destroy his original body, and he asks him if he has any attachment to it and if he wants to spend the rest of his life in a fake. Without hesitation, Zero destroys Omega, taking his original body along with him. I wonder how this scene would play out if Zero cared about his original body and decided not to destroy it. Zero, what the hell are you doing? Destroy him before it's too late. But I don't want to destroy it because that's the body I spent most of my life in. Oh, for fuck's sakes, just destroy the damn thing! Afterwards, WoW's curse on her fades away and she reverts back to the Mother Elf. After Zero destroys Omega, his original body explodes and takes the Guardians out with it. Except for Zero because the Mother Elf took him back to the Resistance base. While she literally left the Guardians there to die, what a dick. Maybe she couldn't take 4 Ripley's with her, but you could have at least tried to save them. By the way, the game itself doesn't tell you that the Guardians died and their fate was a mystery until it was revealed in an interview that they died from protecting Zero from Omega's explosion. Anyways, on with the story. After a flash of white, X pops up and tells Zero that he spent almost all of his energy and he tells him that this is his goodbye. He also tells him to protect the world from WoW and he goes on to say he can do it before he completely fades away. Afterwards, Zero wakes up at the Resistance base and he wonders how he got there before Servo tells him that the Mother Elf saved him from the explosion and brought him back to the Resistance base. The Mother Elf thanks Zero for freeing her from WoW's curse and she flies away. Ecel tells Zero that it doesn't matter that his body is a copy and all that matters that his heart and mind are his own. Zero thanks her and the Resistance for helping him since Zero won and he says that all that's left is him and that he's Zero. Overall, this story was fucking incredible and it's easily one of my favorite stories in Mega Man and gaming as a whole. The story has great character development like Harpuia finally realizing that New Arcadia wasn't what he thought it was and him helping Zero in the ending as well as standing up against WoW. Or Zero, who finally comes to terms with who he is, regains his past memories of the Maverick Wars, the Elf Wars, and destroys Dr. Wily's Zero. As for the other Guardians, they don't get nearly as much character development as Harpuia does. Well, not in the game itself anyway. In the audio drama, they have a talk with X and Phantom in cyberspace where X tells him to help Zero defeat Omega, but they don't want to help Zero because they don't want to be friends with him, but they have no choice because they need to defeat WoW and Omega. Later on, they also help Harpuia fight against WoW's forces, and they say that they are fighting for humans and not for their jobs as the 4 Guardians. The audio drama Talos gives them more character development and screen time than 03 does. The story also has great moments like WoW's first appearance, X's goodbye to Zero, the Guardians standing beside Zero to help them defeat Omega, etc. The story also has great writing, except for the WoW members because all they say is Lord WoW is creating a new world, history is in motion, etc. In the audio drama, they reveal that they were originally known as 8 gentle judges and they will help X determine if Mavericks were guilty or not and what punishment they should receive. The audio drama also reveals how Dr. Wily programmed them and turned them into WoW's numbers, changing their personalities from gentle judges to aggressive bullies. They also have a lot of respect for X and the 4 Guardians with their own ideas of doing things in New Arcadia, but in the game they just talk about the histories and motion crap instead of having actual personalities. With the story out of the way, let's get into the titles of the game. The title of the game is Mega Man 03, while in Japan it's Rockman 03. With the titles out of the way, let's get into the game. Like the last 2 games, Mega Man 03 is a fast-paced platformer with hack-and-slash gameplay. All of Zero's weapons from the second game return except for the chain rod. Our new rod weapon this time is the recoil rod. The recoil rod is a short-range weapon that when charged allows you to bounce off of an enemy or send them flying into each other, which is very satisfying. On top of that, you can use it as a platforming tool to propel yourself very high in the air. Combined with the double jump foot, yep, more on that later, you can jump very high in the air. The shield boomerang is also back, so that's cool, I guess. While on the topic of weapons, they finally removed the star system, which means you don't have to level up your weapons anymore. The star system wasn't nearly as bad in 02, but it made the beginning of the game a lot harder because you didn't have your triple slash combo or the charged saber. Another thing returning for the last 2 games are the Cyber Elves. In the last 2 games, you found them in the stages, and after you had beaten the stage, you had to go to Ecel or the Trans server to download the ones you wanted or defeat the ones that required energy crystals. In the stages, you'll find secret discs, and for the ones you can't analyze, you'll take them to the server. The discs themselves usually contain 0 serious trivia, energy crystals, or Cyber Elves. Speaking of which, there's also a new menu for them in this game. Starlight 1 and 2 are permanent Cyber Elves that you can use as much as you like. The fusion ones are the side barrels that you can only use once, and the energy crystal ones are the side barrels that you have to feed first before you use them. You can also use 2 side barrels at the same time, and if you want to use a different side barrel, you can switch over to the menu and change it during the gameplay. Some of them also take the place of the foreign powers from 0-2 like the rolling slash. In the stages, you'll find an opening to cyberspace thanks to Omega being awakened in the story. Cyberspace is a place where all Reploid souls and side barrels live. When you enter the portal, all your side barrels come alive, which makes you very overpowered. However, you can't use this during boss fights and also negatively affects your rank. It also takes away the detail from the stages themselves and replaces the color with an ugly shade of green. Speaking of ranks, the EX skills from 0-2 return, and this time around, all 4 of your weapons have EX skills of their own instead of only the Buster and Saber. Like the 1000 slash, which you get for the recoil rod, which is very satisfying to use, or the dash slash, which does a lot of damage to enemies and bosses. By the way, the bosses get new attacks if you fight them with an A or S rank, which is something I forgot to mention last time. The elemental chips also return from the first 2 games, which you get by defeating the first fire, ice, or electric element boss. The other bosses you defeat give you chips for your body parts, like the auto charge for the head chip, the ability to dash and turn enemies for the foot chip, the light body chip that doesn't make you ride to climb like platforms, the double jump foot chip, and my personal favorite, the ultimate foot chip you get by defeating Phantom, which allows you to use every foot chip at once. However, you can only equip 1 chip per body part, so you can't use them all at once, excluding the ultimate foot chip. Like the side bros, you can switch your body part chips during the gameplay, so you don't have to worry about picking the wrong chip. Now let's move on to one of 0-3's biggest strengths, the level design. The stages in 0-3 are amazing, but they aren't as good as 0-2 stages. Like the snow stage where you ride snow sleds and you have to fight and avoid enemies, or the sand stage where you have to avoid quicksand as well as fight a helicopter and a sandworm mini-boss. Other great stages like the second library where you have to avoid being electrocuted by electrified water and navigate your way through the maze to attain the secret disc, or the missile stage where you have to quickly make your way through the missile itself before it breaks apart. The only stage I don't like in this game is the elevator stage that makes you fight enemies, which isn't very fun, but it doesn't drag on for too long. While on the topic of the stages, 0-3 brings back some stages from 0-1 and 2 of new elements and level design. You can also use the recoil rod to push / destroy platforms in order to get secret discs, which are hidden in very good spots. As for the difficulty, Mega Man 0-3 is an easy game with a couple of hard sections here and there. However, it's the fun kind of easy instead of the boring kind like Mega Man 5 or Sonic Chaos. As for the bosses, they're fine. Some of them are fun and challenging like Blazing Flizzard, Phantom, Calvern, and Omega Zero. While others are extremely easy with attacks that are pretty easy to avoid like Defton's Mantis, Blizzak's Stagroth R, Copy X Mark II, and Omega's first 2 forms. As for the soundtrack, it's not as good as 0-2, but it's still an amazing soundtrack. My favorites are Reborn Mechanics, Exiled 1, Volcano, Final Countdown, no not that Final Countdown, For Endless Fight 3, Infiltration 2, Trail of Padori Snow, Submerged Memory, Return to Zero, and Cannonball. Overall, Mega Man 0-3 is a kick-ass game with amazing stages, an incredible story, a fantastic soundtrack, great weapons, and fun combat. The rating is a 9.4 out of 10, and next time I'll see you with the conclusion of the Zero series, Mega Man 0-4 on the Game Boy Advance. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Anyways, peace out.